Hey y'all, it's Miss Cat
and Miss Alicia,
and we're here today to talk about transplanting those baby plants you've been taking care of out in the garden.
Last time we learned how to sow seeds directly in the garden. Now today we're going to take those seeds that we sowed indoors back in January and February and transplant them into the garden. Miss Cat, when do we know the plant is ready to go out into the garden?
One of them is that it has to have a set of true leaves. Here we have a great example of a plant with its first true leaves. The first two leaves that come up on a sprout are cotyledons. This gives the plant all the nutrients it needs to grow into a big, strong plant. The next set of leaves it sprouts is called its true leaves. So it'll get a set, which is two, of true leaves, and those leaves look more like the plant you know. Like these look like radish leaves. This is a great example here of a radish that has the two cotyledons and the set of true leaves on it. These tomato plants definitely have their true leaves. They have lots of leaves on them and they look like tomato plants.
Another thing you need to look for is when the time is right to plant and what the temperature is outside.
That's right. You need to wait till after the first frost, which is different in each planting zone.
Right. You can just Google your area and it'll tell you when your last frost date is. Here in Knoxville, ours is around tax day, April 15th.
Right. So you wait for the last frost day, but then you also want to make sure, like this year, we still had mini frost after April 15th. So this is just an average. You want to make sure that you look at the weather for the upcoming week before you plant them.
So this is a beautiful sunny day. We are definitely above freezing, so we are going to plant these beautiful seedlings.
While you're waiting for the last frost, you can be hardening off your plants. Once your plants have two true leaves, they are ready to be hardened off. What is hardening off?
It's basically just getting your plants that have been babied indoors used to the outside. And you want to do it in small steps so you don't shock them.
Right. Too much sun on a sunny day in April will totally fry all your hard work. So you want to start by bringing them outside and maybe on your porch or next to your house that's a little shady for a couple hours a day, and then slowly introducing them to the sun and windy conditions. After they've been hardened off and you know that they're strong enough to come out into the world, and it's after the average last frost in your area, we need to prepare the soil.
So we got to take all the weeds out of the soil because they are competition for nutrients for our beautiful new seedlings. And we want all of our seedlings to have all the nutrients they need to give us a great harvest.
And this goes for flowers too. Everything that we're saying for the vegetables really go for flowers too. You want to make sure to give your young plants the best start by giving them a clean area to grow in. You then want to dig a hole. How big of a hole do you dig?
Well, a good rule of thumb is you want to dig the hole as deep as the container that your plant is in. That's a rule for most plants. When you're planting tomatoes, it's a little different. We like to plant tomatoes deep so they have vigorous root system to provide us with a great harvest. So we dig tomato holes a little bit deeper.
Tomatoes are a specialty plant because each one of these little hairs on its stem becomes a root. And because we ask so much of the tomato plant to give us those big fruits all through the summer, we want them to have a really big root system.
And if you want more information on tomatoes, we did a whole video just on tomatoes. So you can check that out on our channel.
So let's dig a hole. All right, so let's start with our pepper plant. This is a Tabasco pepper. And just like on the seedling packets, where all the information is on your seed packet, all the information here is on this little name card. It has what kind of pepper it is, how long it takes to fruit. So it says maturity 80 days. That means 80 days after you plant it, it'll be a mature plant. And how to grow it. You want to plant it in full sunlight, 18 to 24 inches apart. It also tells you how far the rows should be apart. When planting in a raised bed, you don't have to worry about that information. You just want to pay attention to how far apart the peppers actually planted from each other. So today we're going to be doing 18 inches apart. You can use a yard stick to measure.
When digging your hole, you not only want to dig it as deep as your pot, but twice as wide as your pot. So you give those roots lots of room to grow out.
Now you've got your hole dug, and now's a great time to add nutrients. Again, if you've done your soil test, then you know exactly what kind of nutrients you need for your soil. If not, most vegetable plants really enjoy a all-purpose fertilizer, and you just sprinkle a little in. It's best to read the instructions when dealing with fertilizers, especially if you haven't used them before. They have a full set of instructions and exactly how much to put on each plant.
So now that we've got our hole dug and our nutrients in, it's time to pop our little baby plant out. So to get it out carefully, you just gently squeeze the sides and then put your hand over the top and tip it out.
This is a beautiful looking transplant. If you see, the roots are there and they're abundant, but they're not overly wrapped around the potting soil. At this point, we usually say to tease the roots, and you basically just open up the roots from the bottom so that they're ready to grow out and give that plant a firm hold on the soil.
We'll pop it in a hole, and we just cover it back up, making sure to get all that fertilizer in there. And then we tamp the soil down all around the plant to make sure it's nice and tucked in.
Very nice.
Ta-da!
And that's all there is to that. So most flowers and most plants can be planted this simply. Tomatoes we all love to have in our summer gardens, and they are planted just slightly different than other plants. Again, we talked about pulling them out. Here, we'll do a new one. We'll pull them out. Now these, again, are fairly nice roots. Often when you get them from the nursery, they have many roots wrapped around and are what they call root bound, are very, very tightly wrapped. Either way, we like to tease the roots and pull them open a little bit to give it a good start. And with tomatoes, you want to pinch those bottom leaves off, and I actually pinch them pretty far up and just leaving the tops to be planted. Then we want to add nutrients that will feed it. So now you want to plant it deep in the hole, and again, gently put the soil over top and tamp down the soil so we get a good contact with that plant and the soil.
And it's just that easy.
Next, we're going to water it in. Miss Alicia's going to water it in for us. You want to make sure you have deep soaking on that first water. And if you're going to be growing a vining tomato or a vining flower, you want to make sure to get the trellis in while it's young. That way, while the roots are establishing, the trellis will be there, and you won't rip up the roots putting a trellis in when the plant is already established. That's it. That's really all there is to planting those sweet seedlings that you've been growing all winter long.
The only thing you have to remember is to water it weekly. Most vegetables like 1 inch of water a week.
That's right, and with our hot summers in East Tennessee, you certainly want to be checking your plants and all of your garden with that special tool that you have on your hand, your finger. If you don't feel the moisture within 1 inch of your finger going in there, you want to give it a good watering. Thanks for joining us today.
You can join us next time for our video on garden maintenance. We're going to check in to see how our plants are growing, see if it has any diseases or pests.
Good luck planting your vegetable garden. Have a great summer. We'll see you next time. See you in the garden.